Welcome, dear listeners, to another journey into the wonders of the ancient world. Today, I invite you to step back in time, to a place where myth and reality walked side by side. Imagine ancient Greece, a land of marble temples, echoing prayers, and legends whispered beneath olive trees. Among the hills of Olympia, where athletes once competed for glory, there stood a marvel that inspired awe for centuries. This was no ordinary statue. It was a vision of Zeus himself, the mighty king of the gods. Through the genius of Phidias, the statue of Zeus at Olympia became more than art. It was faith, power, and imagination shaped in gold and ivory. Inside the temple of Zeus, the statue rose high, filling visitors with the sense that the god himself was present. Though time has erased its form, its memory still lingers in history and legend. It reminds us of humanity's timeless desire to reach for the divine through beauty and creation. So, let us begin this journey together into the heart of Olympia and the story of Zeus's wonder. Close your eyes and imagine standing beneath the bright Mediterranean sun. More than 2,000 years ago, the air is warm, carrying the scent of olive trees and the steady hum of cicadas. Before you lies a land unlike any other, the birthplace of myths, philosophy, democracy, and timeless art. This is ancient Greece, where gods and mortals seem to walk side by side in every story and song. The gods were not distant beings. To the Greeks, they were present, powerful, and woven into daily life. Zeus was not just a name from myth. He was the protector of kings, the bringer of justice, the wielder of thunder. His presence was felt in storms, in the triumph of armies, and in solemn oaths sworn by mortals. Yet Zeus was also honored through joy, unity, and celebration in his sacred name. Every 4 years, people from across Greece gathered in a valley called Olympia. Olympia was more than a city. It was a sanctuary, blessed by Zeus himself. Here, the Olympic Games were born, not just as contests, but as acts of faith and devotion. Runners sprinted barefoot across dusty tracks under the blazing sunday. Wrestlers grappled with strength and skill before cheering crowds. Chariots thundered across the hippodrome in a display of speed and daring. Every race, every victory, every cheer was dedicated to Zeus, Lord of the skies. Victors were crowned not with gold but with olive wreaths, symbols of peace and divine favor. Crowds gathered, families, priests, merchants, travelers from faraway lands. They came not only to see athletes, but to worship, to offer sacrifices, to feel closer to the divine. In Olympia, the boundary between human and God felt thinner, almost invisible. But even here, something was missing. The great temple of Zeus stood tall, its columns gleaming in the sun, echoing with prayers. And yet, inside, there was no vision powerful enough to capture the majesty of Zeus. Priests and leaders longed for a statue that would bring the god to life, not just a sculpture, but a wonder, a symbol of awe and reverence. The dream was not vanity. It was devotion, a bridge between mortals and the divine. For the Greeks, art was never mere decoration. It was a way to connect with the unseen, to give shape to the eternal. So the idea grew. Olympia would house a statue worthy of the King of Gods, a vision so extraordinary that it would honor Zeus for eternity. As the sun set over Olympia, golden shadows stretched across the sacred valley. Whispers of anticipation filled the air. Something great was about to begin. Soon, the sanctuary would hold a wonder the world would never forget. This was the beginning, the setting of the stage. A sacred land, a devoted people, and a vision waiting to be born. The greatest sculptor of the age was about to arrive, and with his genius, he would transform ivory and gold into living majesty. The statue would rise, one of the seven wonders of the ancient world. But before we meet him, we linger here in ancient Greece. For it is in these prayers, these games, and this sacred soil that the story begins. The Temple of Zeus in Olympia stood proudly, its tall columns shining in the sunday. Pilgrims traveled from across Greece to see it, drawn by faith and tradition. Yet despite its grandeur, something inside felt empty, incomplete. The priests of Olympia sensed this absence deeply in their hearts. The temple was a house of worship, but also a bridge to the divine. They knew Zeus needed more than prayers and sacrifices to be felt. There had to be a vision, a form that carried his majesty. Imagine stepping into the temple then with flickering lamps and burning incense. The altar stood ready, the offerings were placed, but Zeus was unseen. It was as if the sacred space whispered, "Build me a vision of Zeus." And so the dream was born, a dream larger than imagination. It would not be a simple idol, but a masterpiece of devotion. The leaders longed for an image that showed Zeus's power and wisdom. They dreamed of a figure that embodied justice, dignity, and divine order. This vision was not pride, but devotion, a gift worthy of the king. The Greeks believed the gods deserved the finest human effort, and to honor Zeus, only perfection would do. But who could bring this dream to life? Whispers spread a single name: Phidias. Phidias was already famed in Athens for his statues of Athena. His art gave stone and bronze the spirit of living God. Inviting Phidias to Olympia was more than a decision. It was a promise. A promise that Olympia would house a wonder to honor Zeus forever. Phidias accepted, carrying both pride and immense responsibility. He knew his task was not only sculpture, but destiny. How could one capture thunder, justice, and divine authority in form? To him, this was not just art, it was the face of a god. As word spread, Olympia buzzed with anticipation. Pilgrims wondered, would Zeus stand in thunder or sit in calm? The priests prayed for guidance, trusting Zeus would bless the work. Craftsmen prepared, ivory for purity, gold for glory, wood for strength. Every detail would carry meaning, every piece chosen with care. The dream had taken root, waiting to transform into reality. Soon, the temple would no longer echo with emptiness. Soon, it would hold a presence so powerful the world would never forget. This was the moment of waiting, filled with hope and vision. The dream was alive, carried on the lips of priests and people alike. A dream entrusted to the genius of Phidias. And soon, the statue would rise, one of the seven wonders of the world. When Olympia dreamed of a statue for Zeus, they turned to one man, Phidias. His name carried respect in Athens, in the markets, among poets and philosophers alike. Phidias was not only a sculptor. To many, he was a visionary who made the divine visible. Years before, he created the colossal Athena Parthenos for the Parthenon in Athens. That statue, gleaming in ivory and gold, left visitors feeling they had seen the goddess herself. This reputation made him the only choice for Olympia's greatest dream. But even for him, capturing Zeus was unlike any task he had faced before. Zeus was not only powerful, he was the ruler of gods and men, the guardian of justice. How could anyone capture power, wisdom, and authority in one form? Phidias accepted the challenge, aware of the immense weight of expectation. The journey from Athens to Olympia was long, through hills and sacred valleys. As he traveled, he likely wondered, should Zeus stand in might or sit in calm authority? When he arrived, the people welcomed him with reverence and hope. They led him into the temple, vast yet incomplete, waiting for its central figure. Phidias stood silently inside, sensing that the god deserved not only size, but soul. His genius lay not only in skill, but in vision and meaning. He believed sculpture was a bridge between mortals and the divine. To him, Zeus must embody both power and peace, justice and harmony. He planned every detail, starting with the materials rich in symbolism. Ivory for the god's flesh, pure and radiant, a mark of immortality. Gold for his robes, shimmering with glory and eternal authority. Ebony and precious stones for the throne, a seat of heaven and earth. Phidias gathered a team of master craftsmen and apprentices to join him. Woodworkers shaped the structure. Goldsmiths hammered robes. Artisans carved ivory. Every detail mattered, from the curve of Zeus's hand to the throne's carved legs. It was like a symphony, each artisan adding a note under Phidias's direction. But his true gift was giving his statues a sense of life and presence. People often said his work seemed to breathe, to radiate something beyond human skill. Whispers spread. Perhaps Zeus himself guided his hands as he worked. Seasons passed, and anticipation in Olympia grew with each stage of progress. Pilgrims asked eagerly about the statue. Priests prayed for its completion. Children peeked into the workshop, glimpsing flashes of ivory and gold. Finally, Zeus began to emerge under Phidias's genius. Seated on his throne, calm yet mighty, a god among men. In one hand he held the goddess of victory, Nike. In the other, a scepter crowned with an eagle, a sign of dominion. Though incomplete, the statue already filled hearts with awe and reverence. Phidias was transforming Olympia into the home of a wonder of the world. It was the moment when devotion and artistry touched the divine. The creation of the statue of Zeus was a process of years, not days. It was a weaving of art, devotion, and engineering genius. The people of Olympia waited with reverence and anticipation. Inside Phidias's workshop, tools rang with chisels and hammers. Apprentices carried ivory. Artisans polished gold. Carpenters shaped wood. Every hand worked with one purpose: to give shape to Zeus. The statue's core was a wooden framework, a hidden skeleton. Ivory sheets were placed upon it, polished to glowing skin. Gold was applied to the robes, flashing brilliance in the temple. Phidias combined strength and beauty in perfect harmony. The wood gave structure. The ivory and gold concealed it all. What people saw was not construction, but pure divinity. The throne was not only a seat, but a symbol. Its legs bore carvings of gods, heroes, and mythical beasts. Amazons, sphinxes, and victories all reminded of Zeus's rule. Seated, the god nearly touched the roof of the temple. His head brushed the rafters, filling visitors with awe and wonder. It seemed he might rise and shatter the ceiling above. The scale was overwhelming, but it was intentional. Phidias wanted mortals to feel humbled and inspired at once. Ivory could not simply be cut and fixed into place. It had to be softened, shaped, and carefully attached to wood. Gold was hammered thin, shaped, and fitted with precision. Each task was delicate, demanding patience and innovation. The artisans often worked in silence, broken by prayer. They believed they were preparing a dwelling for Zeus himself, not just an image, but the very presence of the god. Stories spread across Greece of a statue rivaling the divine. Travelers spoke of it in markets, temples, and distant ports. Pilgrims came to Olympia, eager to glimpse its creation. Though hidden, even whispers of progress stirred awe and reverence. For Phidias, the task was both artistic and spiritual. He saw Zeus as order, justice, and majesty, not fear. His statue would embody peace and authority in one form. Piece by piece, the god emerged from shadow into light. His shoulders broadened, his hands extended with purpose divine. His face radiated calm, power, and wisdom beyond human reach. When the throne was placed, the temple itself transformed. It no longer felt empty. It felt alive with presence. Priests bowed unconsciously when entering, overcome with reverence. The statue was not complete, but it was already divine. It was a harmony of architecture, artistry, and devotion. Olympia had become a beacon for the ancient world. The statue humbled, inspired, and united all who came. It was more than a wonder, it was a shared faith. Soon, when complete, the world would see the impossible made real. At last, after years of labor, the work of Phidias was unveiled. The temple doors opened, and mortals stepped in to behold Zeus. What they saw was not a statue, it was the god himself. Visitors entered in silence, footsteps echoing on marble floors. As eyes rose to Zeus, silence turned to awe and reverence. Some whispered prayers, others gasped, and a few wept quietly. They felt they stood in the very presence of the divine. Zeus sat upon a throne that was itself a masterpiece. Ivory, gold, and ebony adorned it with carvings of gods and beasts. The throne proclaimed his rule over heaven, earth, and myth. The figure of Zeus was vast, filling the entire temple space. His head nearly touched the beams, his shoulders stretched wide. His golden robes caught the light, gleaming with divine brilliance. Ivory flesh glowed softly, as though warmed by inner fire. In his right hand stood Nike, the goddess of victory. In his left, a scepter crowned with an eagle, his sacred bird. Symbols of triumph, wisdom, and dominion filled the hall. His face was calm yet filled with unshakable authority. To look into his eyes was to feel judged and protected. His expression balanced power and compassion, king and father. Writers said if Zeus stood, he'd shatter the temple roof. The immensity was intentional to blur mortal and immortal lines. The temple itself transformed, alive with sacred atmosphere. Light danced on gold and ivory, making Zeus shimmer as if alive. Incense smoke rose from the altar, mingling with divine presence. For pilgrims, this was not art, it was revelation. They traveled far, and here they saw the divine revealed. Kneeling before Zeus, they felt part of something eternal. Stories spread of the god so lifelike he might speak. Others swore his gaze followed them as they moved. Some believed Zeus had chosen the statue as his form. It was more than admiration, it was devotion and awe. The historian Strabo said it erased all doubt of gods. Pausanias confessed words could never capture its majesty. To see Zeus was to understand him beyond language. Phidias had achieved the impossible. He gave form to the formless. He made the invisible visible, a true vision of divinity. For centuries, pilgrims came to kneel, pray, or gaze in silence. All left changed, carrying the memory of Zeus within them. The statue was not just a wonder, it was an encounter. It was where artistry and faith merged into timeless awe. Imagine the world over 2,000 years ago. Travel was slow, roads uncertain, and seas ruled by shifting winds. Yet pilgrims crossed great distances, drawn to Olympia's sacred wonder. This was more than travel. It was pilgrimage, faith, and hope. To see Zeus was to glimpse eternity made visible by Phidias. Journeys began in distant lands, across mountains and seas. From Asia Minor, sailors braved the restless Aegean. From Italy, travelers crossed rugged routes and rough waters. Every step tested endurance, yet belief carried them forward. Storms threatened, bandits lurked, exhaustion pressed heavily, but stories of Olympia's glory kept their hearts alive. they whispered. A single glimpse of Zeus changes a soul. Near the Peloponnese, the land itself prepared the traveler. Olive groves shimmered, cicadas sang, anticipation grew with each step. Olympia was no city, but a sanctuary of gods. It came alive with festivals, most of all the games. Arriving pilgrims saw the Altis, sacred enclosure of wonders. Temples, treasuries, and monuments told tales of devotion. The air carried incense, oil, and dust from training grounds. Among them all, one temple called above the rest, the Temple of Zeus, its columns stretching toward the sky. Pilgrims paused at its steps, hearts pounding in awe. The journey itself was sacred. Not only the arrival, travelers shared songs, prayers, and hopes along the way. Merchants carried oils, statues, and wreaths as offerings. Families prayed for blessings on children's futures. Athletes sought Zeus's favor before entering the games. Here, rivals stood side by side in reverence. Different tongues, one purpose: to honor the King of Gods. Inside the temple, silence wrapped the approaching pilgrim. Each step carried weight, anticipation burning within. At last, eyes met Zeus, and struggles vanished. Some fell to their knees in awe. Others froze, unable to speak or move. A few whispered prayers, believing Zeus truly listened. Perhaps in that sacred place, he did. Leaving the temple, pilgrims carried transformation. They had seen divinity made visible. The journey became proof of devotion and faith. Stories spread across seas and marketplaces. Voices carried awe, reverence, and conviction of believers. The legend grew, drawing more to Olympia. For centuries, the cycle repeated without end. Pilgrims traveled, prayed, and returned home with stories. Zeus at Olympia became more than art. It was connection to something eternal. The statue was a meeting of worlds, mortal and divine, distant and eternal, human and God. The journey was not only physical but spiritual. It was emotional, transformative, everlasting. And as long as Zeus stood, pilgrims would come. Every 4 years, Olympia came alive in sacred celebration. The Olympic Games were more than sport. They were offerings to Zeus. Pilgrims, athletes, merchants, and rulers gathered in devotion and hope. The sanctuary echoed with footsteps and voices in many tongues. Rivals laid down arms under the sacred truce of the games. Opening ceremonies began with oaths sworn before mighty Zeus. Athletes pledged fairness, strength, and courage under divine witness. Incense rose, sacrifices burned, and prayers filled the air. Inside the temple, Zeus's statue silently watched every vow. To win at Olympia meant eternal glory and honor. Poets would sing your name. Cities would celebrate your triumph. But victory was not only about strength, it was divine favor. Athletes prayed to Zeus, seeking his blessing before contests. They believed his gaze could shape destiny and outcome. Events filled the air with thunder, sweat, and courage. Foot races, wrestling, boxing, and chariot races honored the gods. Spectators roared, yet reverence remained in every cheer. Each victory was both human triumph and sacred tribute. Victors received olive wreaths from Zeus's sacred grove. Simple crowns, yet more precious than jewels or gold. They symbolized the god's blessing and eternal remembrance. Beyond sport, the games celebrated unity and peace. Ideas, stories, and goods flowed across borders at Olympia. Philosophers debated, poets recited, rulers forged alliances. Olympia became a crossroads of the ancient world. To many, the games were living rituals of faith. Through sweat, cheers, and triumph. They felt Zeus's presence. Writers described Olympia as Greece's very heartbeat. Every race, every chant, carried the spirit of Zeus. Those entering the temple during the games felt awe. Outside was celebration. Inside was divine harmony. Zeus lived not only in ivory and gold. He reigned in spirit, in laughter, in triumph, in unity. For centuries, the games and the statue were inseparable. The games honored Zeus, and Zeus gave them meaning. The sacred bond kept pilgrims returning year after year. The statue stood as judge, patron, and eternal inspiration. It was not only a wonder of the world, it was the soul of Olympia's greatest festival of faith. The statue of Zeus at Olympia was more than a sight for pilgrims. Its influence reached far beyond the temple walls in the sanctuary of Olympia. Stories of its grandeur spread across the Mediterranean like whispers carried by the wind. Merchants spoke of its golden glow in distant ports and crowded markets. Pilgrims returned home with memories that soon became living legends. Poets and historians captured its majesty in verses and chronicles. The statue became an ambassador of Greek culture to lands far away. In Asia Minor, in Egypt, and across Italy, people repeated tales of Zeus enthroned. Some said it was more lifelike than any man could ever be. Others claimed that God himself had chosen to dwell within it. For many, the statue was less stone and gold and more vision and faith. Artists and sculptors across the ancient world took inspiration from it. Echoes of Phidias's masterpiece appeared in reliefs, coins, and temple art. Zeus, seated in majesty, holding Nike, became an enduring image of divine authority. The Romans, too, were deeply moved by this vision of power. They saw in Zeus, or Jupiter, as they called him, the father of gods and men. Philosophers reflected on the meaning of such a work. To some, it was proof of humanity's ability to touch the divine through art. To others, it showed beauty and reverence were stronger than armies. The Greeks believed war might conquer land, but art conquered time. The statue of Zeus stood as the perfect example of that truth. Even when its gold dimmed and ivory aged, its legend endured. Travelers still described it with awe. Centuries after its creation, writers compared it to the greatest achievements of human hands. It was no longer only a statue, but a timeless symbol of imagination and faith. When Rome took Greece, Olympia fell under their power. The Romans admired the statue but carried its spirit into their empire. The image of Zeus inspired their temples, their rituals, their vision of Jupiter. Even when Olympia faded, the statue's story lived on. Generations far removed still imagined the god upon his throne. They did not need to see the gold to feel its majesty. Its power reached them through stories, through echoes in art and words. The statue of Zeus became a bridge across centuries and cultures. It showed beauty could travel without moving, and faith could inspire without sight. It was more than a wonder, it was a legacy. A reminder that wonders are meant to inspire, to endure, and to be shared. And though the statue is gone, its influence still lingers in memory. Every time we speak of the seven wonders, its spirit lives again. In imagination, Zeus still sits upon his golden throne in Olympia. For centuries, the statue of Zeus at Olympia stood as one of the greatest wonders of the world. Today, not a trace of it remains, and its fate lingers as one of history's deepest mysteries. Its story is pieced together from fragments, whispers, and unanswered questions. Time leaves its mark on everything. Gold fades, ivory weathers, and even masterpieces grow fragile. By the Roman era, the statue was centuries old, yet it still commanded awe and reverence. Roman emperors admired Greek art, and some dreamed of moving the statue to their capital. One legend says Emperor Caligula ordered it to be taken to Rome. His plan was bold: replace the face of Zeus with his own likeness. But before his command could be carried out, Caligula was assassinated. The statue remained in Olympia, untouched by his vanity and ambition. As centuries passed, new faiths rose, and old gods lost their followers. In the 4th century, Christianity spread across the Roman Empire with unstoppable force. Pagan temples closed, and the worship of Zeus faded into silence. The sanctuary of Olympia, once alive with pilgrims, fell quiet and abandoned. Some say the statue was moved to Constantinople, the empire's new shining capital. There, in the halls of power, it may have continued to inspire awe. But if so, its survival was brief, for fire swept through Constantinople in the 5th century. Many believe the flames destroyed the great statue once and for all. Others claim it never left Olympia, perishing in earthquakes or temple fires. Natural disasters struck the site, leaving the sanctuary damaged and forgotten. By medieval times, travelers found no trace of Zeus or his golden throne. What haunts us most is not its loss, but the silence around its end. No fragments of ivory, no gleaming gold, no clear record of its final fate. The statue simply vanished, leaving behind echoes in words and memory. Paradoxically, its absence makes it even more alive in imagination. We picture Zeus enthroned through the awe-filled descriptions of ancient writers. He lives not in stone, but in the collective vision of the human mind. The loss turns the statue into both history and legend. It blurs the line between fact and myth, between art and dream. Perhaps it is this very mystery that keeps it alive in our stories. The statue's disappearance reminds us of the fragility of wonders. Even the greatest creations are vulnerable to time, fire, and neglect. Yet its story proves beauty and memory can outlast marble and gold. Though gone, the statue still reigns through words, paintings, and echoes of awe. In every mention of the 7 wonders, its spirit awakens again. It may be lost in the world, but it survives in the temple of imagination. Perhaps that is its greatest legacy to vanish, yet remain eternal in wonder. Though the statue of Zeus at Olympia no longer stands, its spirit has never disappeared. Its memory lingers like a golden echo through time, shaping art, faith, and imagination. The statue's greatest legacy is not the gold or ivory that adorned it. Its legacy lies in the way it inspired generations, even after its final traces were lost. It was a wonder that continued in stories, in art, and in the human mind. Each of the 7 wonders tells a story of ambition and creativity. The pyramids are monuments to eternity, and the hanging gardens whisper of paradise. The statue of Zeus tells of humanity's desire to meet the divine face to face. It reflects our longing to capture the presence of the gods in human form. That same longing lives on today in cathedrals, skyscrapers, and voyages into space. The statue reminds us that beauty can be a bridge between earth and heaven. Its legacy also lies in the power of art itself. Phidias did not merely carve stone or shape gold, he gave lifeless matter a soul. His vision proved that art could stir the heart as deeply as faith or philosophy. Even without surviving fragments, his work still shapes how we imagine the divine. Writers preserved its memory through vivid descriptions of Zeus enthroned. They told of pilgrims who felt small before it, yet lifted by its grandeur. Their words became as lasting as the statue itself, carrying its image forward in time. The statue also teaches us about fragility. Wonders can vanish consumed by fire, toppled by earthquakes, or lost to neglect. Yet its story shows that ideas and memory can outlast stone, gold, and ivory. In this way, the statue of Zeus is both lost and eternal. It is gone from the world, yet alive in imagination. A reminder that human creativity can endure longer than marble or bronze. Today, artists and historians still attempt to recreate it. Through paintings, models, and digital visions, we seek to glimpse its glory. These efforts remind us that the true wonder lies in our desire to remember. The legacy of the statue is universal, not bound to Greece alone. It belongs to anyone who has felt humbled or inspired by great art. It shows that beauty is timeless and belongs to all humanity. When we speak of the statue of Zeus, we recall more than ivory and gold. We remember humanity's search for meaning and connection with the divine. We remember the power to transform imagination into reality. The statue may be gone, but its legacy remains a wonder of its own. It is not carved in marble, but written in memory and imagination. Wonders are not only things we see, they are experiences we carry. They shape us, inspire us, and live long after their stones have fallen. The statue of Zeus still reigns not in a temple, but in the stories we tell. It survives in dreams, in art, and in the unending pursuit of beauty. It is eternal not in form, but in spirit, a true wonder for all time.